So one of the most common questions that's asked with regards to Hilchot Hanukah is what is the proper time to light Ner Hanukah? So if you look in the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat is where Hilchot Hanukah is discussed. So the statement of the Gemara is Mitzvata mishetishka hahama ad shetikle regel min hashuk. So the mitzvah is from when the sun sets until there are no more passers-by walking in the marketplace. So Harambam codifies this in Mishneh Torah, and he writes, En Madleekleen Nerot Hanukah kodem shetishka hahama. So first of all, you're absolutely not permitted to light Ner Hanukah, according to Harambam, prior to sunset. Ella im sheki'ata. So he explains, Mishetishka hama, with sunset, that's the proper time to light according to Rambam. Lo me'achirin velo makdimin. You shouldn't wait till after that, and you shouldn't do it prior to that. Rambam continues, Shakach or hizid velo hidlikim shekiyata hama. Let's say he forgot, or even purposely, he didn't light at the proper time, he didn't light at sunset. Madlik ve'olech ad shetikle regel min hashuk. So he has that amount of time until there are no more passers-by in the street to light. V'kama hu zeman zeh. How long is ad shetikle regel min hashuk? Kimo hasi sha'a o yater. It's about a half hour or more. Abar zeman zeh eno madlik. So once this approximately 30-minute period of time passed by, according to Rambam, you don't light Ner Hanukah anymore. So there are other authorities that explain the Gemara a little differently. They explain Mishit Tishkaha Hama is not with sunset, but at the end of sunset, meaning Mishit Tishka after the sun is completely set, not just when the sun has gone below the horizon, but when it's set so much that the Ben Hashem short period, the twilight period, is over, meaning the beginning of nightfall. And Maran and Shulchan Aruch writes, En Madleekleen Ner Hanukah kodem shetishka hahama, like Harambam, don't light before sunset. Ela im sof sheki'ata, light it at the end of its setting. Lo me'achirim velo makdimim, don't do it later, don't do it earlier. So what Harambam explained as im sheki'ata, with the sunset, Maran explains im sof sheki'ata, meaning Mishit Tishka, when it has completely set until it's the beginning of night. Similarly, Hakam Yosef wrote, Zaman Hadakat Nerot Hanukah Beseta Kochavim, right? It's when the stars come out, which is the same as Maran, Sof Sheki'ata. After the twilight, after the Ben Hashem short period is over, again, Lo Me'achirim Velo Makdimim, don't light it earlier, don't light it later, and don't light it earlier. So you have the opinion of Harambam and the Rif. Rif and Harambam have the same opinion, and that's to light at sunset. The opinion of Maran and later authorities was to light at the conclusion of the Ben Hashem Ashod, which is the beginning of nightfall. Now in Halab, they used to light 13 and a half minutes after sunset. So that is consistent with Maran's opinion. In the Middle East, specifically in Eretz Yisrael, according to Maran, the Ben Hashem Ashod period lasts 13 and a half minutes. There's another opinion that says it takes a little longer, even in Eretz Yisrael, that says it takes 18 minutes. But Maran wrote 13 and a half minutes. So we see that in Halab, they followed the Sof Shekiyah of Maran, and that's when they lit. Over here in New York, it might be 5 minutes or 7 or 8 minutes longer than that, meaning like 20 minutes after sunset in Brooklyn, New York, would be the equivalent of 13 and a half minutes in Eretz Yisrael. There are some that want to wait 25 minutes. Why? Because we said there's another opinion that even in Eretz Yisrael it takes 18 minutes. That's when they begin to see the stars. So 18 minutes, the equivalent would be about 25 minutes. Now when you light 20 or 25 minutes after sunset in New York, you're also fulfilling your obligation according to the Rif and Harambam, because the Rif and Harambam don't permit you to light more than approximately 30 minutes after sunset. They begin at sunset, and they say you have approximately 30 minutes to light, and after that you don't light anymore, meaning they don't continue lighting throughout the entire night. So by lighting 20 minutes, you're fulfilling your obligation according both to Maran, which says that it should be at the end of the twilight, and also according to Harambam that says that it shouldn't be more than 30 minutes after sunset. Now what happens if you didn't light it 20 or 25 minutes after sunset? So according to Maran, he writes regarding the period of time of Achet Tikle Regel Min Hashuk. We said until the passers-by are no longer in the street, no longer in the marketplace. We said it's approximately 30 minutes after from when you could begin to light. So Maran writes regarding this time, Hani Mile, that you have to light it at that time, is like a tahila. That's to begin with. Let's say more than this time passed by, there's nobody left in the marketplace whatsoever. Madleekleen kol halayla. You can light the entire night. But if you miss the night, if it's already the next day, if it's after dawn already, then you lost your opportunity. There's no makeup. There's no way to make up the fact that you didn't light the night before. So even though the Rif and Harambam, as we said, would only allow you to light for approximately a half hour after sunset, according to Maran, this time is the proper time to light. It's the best time to light. Well, we would say Lakat Tahillah, that's the time that you should try to light. But if you didn't light by that time, you have until dawn, right? You have the entire night, and you can light the entire night with berakhot. So what is this based on? Why is Maran not following the Rif and Harambam? So according to the Talmud, the proper place to light is outside near the entrance of one's house. And only b'sha'at sakana manihah al shuhano v'dayo. If there's danger involved, so you can't light it outside, so you light it inside on your table, and that's sufficient. Which is, when we're talking about danger, the Gemara even tells us that there were times that the governments didn't let the Jews light Nerot Hanukah outside for religious reasons, or for whatever the case may be, they didn't permit them to do so. Or you could have a situation where there's an antagonistic attitude towards the Jews in society. So if there's any overt display of the Jewish religion, it could provoke anti-Semitic attacks. So if this type of danger exists, the poskim even consider the danger that the Hanukkah itself could get stolen as a sufficient grounds for Shat Sakana. So because throughout the centuries, the Jews were living under various conditions, either with an antagonistic society, or perhaps there was a danger of thieves, people that would steal the Hanukkah, so it became customary to light inside. So once you're lighting indoors, now you're not publicizing the miracle for those passers-by in the marketplace, but really you're publicizing the miracle to the Bnei Habayit, to the people that are living in the house itself, and they're there all night. So based on that, you can light the entire night. That's the Pesach Maran. Chavadia Yosef also says that you can light with berakhot until dawn. Now the general custom of Middle Eastern Jews was to use olive oil, whether they're lighting Ner Shabbat, Ner Yom Tov, and of course also Ner Hanukah. And the reason for this is that the Gemara tells us that the choicest type of oil to light with is the olive oil, because it creates a very clear, nice flame. And also with regards to Hanukkah, that was the actual oil that the miracle occurred with. So therefore it's fitting to use olive oil. Chavadia Yosef says one should only use wax candles for Ner Hanukah if he doesn't have oil. In fact, any type of oil, even if it's not olive oil, takes precedence over candles, because the miracle happened with oil. Right? So therefore, to begin with, you should use olive oil. But according to the law, kol hashemanim hapitilot kesherim lahadakat ner Hanukah. So according to the law, you could use any type of oil. That which we use, olive oil, is mizvah and hamubhad, the best way to do the mizvah. Now there's a difference of opinion amongst the poskim about at which point do you begin lighting the candles. Meaning, before you light the candles, you recite the berakhot, the blessings. On the first night, you have 3 berakhot, Nerot Hanukah, Hanissim, and Shahayanu. On the subsequent nights, it's only the first two berakhot, Madleekleen, Hanukah, and Hanissim. So there are some authorities, including some of the Rishonim, that say immediately after you recite Madleekleen, Hanukah, you begin to light the first candle, before Hanissim, before Shahayanu. And there's other poskim that say, no, first you recite all the berakhot. If it's the first night, all three. If it's subsequent nights, you recite both berakhot, and then you begin lighting the candles. So, amongst those that say to light right away, right after the first berakah, amongst the Rishonim, you have the Me'iri, you have the Terumat Hadeshin. This was also the custom of the Mekubalim in the Bet Knesset, known as Kahal Kadosh Bet El, which was in Yerushalayim, a famous Bet Knesset of Mekubalim. They would light immediately after the first berakah. Harab Shem Tov Gagin, the author of Keter Shem Tov, it's a 7-volume compendium of customs with their reasons, considers that the standard custom in the Middle East, to light immediately after Ner Hanukah. On the other hand, we have the Ben Ish Hai, Hakamadiyah Yosef, both say to light all the candles, all say to recite all of the berachot, and then begin lighting the first candle. And this is placed also on earlier authorities. You have the Ramah, Rabbi Moshe Israelish, the Maharil, and others. So there are some families that have the custom to light right away, right after Madleekleen Hanukah, they begin lighting. Other families recite all the berachot. Both customs are valid customs. So now, there are some Halabi families that have a custom to light an extra candle on each night of Hanukkah. And even amongst those families that light the extra candle, there are some that light two shamoshes, meaning 2 extra candles. But there are other families that actually light an extra Hanukkah candle, meaning instead of 1 candle on the first night, 2 candles on the first night, and just 1 shamosh. So amongst those that the source that shows us that there were some that lit 2 shamoshes, so that's based on the notes of Hakam Selim Zafrani. Right? Hakam Selim Zafrani was a Hakam and a Hazan in the great synagogue of Halab in approximately the beginning of the 20th century. And he has notes of the customs of the Bet Knesset, and there he speaks about lighting the extra candle. He says there's 2 shamoshes. On the other hand, Hakam Yitzhak Shehebar was born and raised in Halab, and he was the chief rabbi of Argentina. And he would light an extra candle with the actual Ner Hanukah, not an extra shamosh. Now, not all families lit an extra candle. It depended if they originated from Spain. Those families that originated from Spain, the Sephardim, lit the extra candle. But the native Jews of Aleppo, there was a Jewish community in Aleppo that goes back to the times of the second Bet HaMikdash. So that native Jewish Aleppian community, they were known as the Mustaravim. They didn't have the custom to light the extra candle. Those that came from Spain with the expulsion in the end of the 15th century had the custom to light the extra candle. So there are various reasons that were suggested. Why do they light an extra candle? I would say that the most plausible reason is that when they were expelled from Spain, they were wandering around looking for a safe haven, and they were very thankful to Hashem for having found a safe place with an established Jewish community, an ancient Jewish community, and to show recognition for having found a new home after being thrown out of Spain, they lit an extra candle on Hanukkah. As we said, it's those families of Spanish origin, the Towel family, the Lanyado family, the Sutton family, the Dweck family, I believe as well, also lights the extra candle, as all those families and others originated from Spain. Until today, there are families that are to still light the custom is still practiced still today amongst those families that originated from Spain to light the extra candle. Now, in addition to lighting candles every night at home, which is an obligation, it's customary also to light candles every night in the Bet Knesset with berakhot, and every morning in the Bet Knesset without berakhot. And in fact, in Halab in the morning, when they lit the Nerot Hanukah, as we said, without berakhot, they also lit an additional 12 candles in memory of the Nisi'im, the princes that offered offerings to the new sanctuary, to the new Mishkan, in the desert. And the reason why they're doing this on Hanukkah is because our daily Torah readings on the days of Hanukkah read about the princes and the offering that they offered to the new Mishkan in the desert. And therefore, they commemorate them on Erev Shabbat when you light candles prior to sunset, so they're not going to be able to light for the Nissim in the morning. They would light those 12 additional candles Erev Shabbat before sunset with the Hanukkah candles, and they would last for the entire Shabbat. They would put enough for them to last the entire 24 hours. Now, when you light candles at home, as we said, the proper time to light is 20 or 25 minutes after sunset. But in the Beit Knesset, it's not necessary to wait until Sof Shekiyah, until Tzet HaKochavim. It's customary to light immediately after sunset, in between Mincha Arbit. And there are those congregations that have the custom, if they're praying Mincha Arbit early, prior to sunset, to light even prior to sunset. Meaning, since it's already after Perek HaMincha, it's that last part of the day leading up to sunset, it's permissible, and those that have the custom have authorities to rely upon.
Why is it not a berakhot levatala to do it in the synagogue if the mitzvah is for ish ubetor?
Right. So the poskim really discuss how come we light in the synagogue altogether, and there's different reasons given. Some say because there were people that slept in the Beit Knesset, so that was like their place. But others say no, since you're publicizing the miracle in a major way, it's sufficient to make the berakhot.
Each minyan or just once a night?
So usually if they have candles already lit in the Beit Knesset, they're not going to light them again. Right? But if you have different minyanim in different rooms, then they can light them in the different rooms. Okay, so women are also obligated to light Ner Hanukah. The rabbis taught, Nashim hayabot b'ner Hanukah, she'af hen hayu be'oto hanes. So, if a man is not home, right, he didn't get home so early to light at that early proper time, so his wife can light on his behalf, and with that he fulfills his obligation. Or if the man is away, he's traveling, his wife could light every night, and she could light on behalf of the household. Also, since women are obligated, a woman or women that live alone are obligated to light Ner Hanukah every night. With regards to children, there is a difference of opinion regarding children that we say Higia lehinuch. Right? What's Higia lehinuch? They reach the age that they can be educated in Mizmor. This is any time, anywhere from 6 to 9 years old, depending on the maturity of the child. So once a child is that age, there are some authorities that say he may light Ner Hanukah. Others say he cannot light Ner Hanukah until a child reaches Bar Mitzvah or a girl reaches Bat Mitzvah. At that time, all say that they can light Ner Hanukah. But prior to that, an 11-year-old, a 10-year-old, so it's a mahloket, a difference of opinion. Hakamad Yosef is stringent. He says that they cannot light Ner Hanukah on behalf of the household. That's if that's to make the berakhot and to light on behalf of the household. But if someone who's older than Bar Mitzvah made the berakhot and lit the first candle, according to the law, a child that is that age already, more than 6 or 7, depending on the child, right, can light the extra candles, the additional candles after the first one. There are some authorities that are stringent and say if the child's not Bar Mitzvah, he can only light the shamosh. Others are lenient, as we said. If you're lenient, you have authorities upon which you rely. Chaim Yosef's son remembers that when he was a child, so after his father would light the first ner, the first candle, he would hold the children's hands and guide their hands to light it. So this way he fulfilled his obligation according to all of the authorities. But as we said, according to the law, you can give your children, if they're a little bit older, but still under Bar Mitzvah, to light the additional candles.
What's the status of a college kid who's dorming? Is that his house?
Right, so if his parents are lighting at home, he fulfilled his obligation. He has no obligation to light Ner Hanukah, and he definitely should not light with berakhot.
Until he's married?
Once he has his own home, his own house, then he's not dependent on his parents. He's supporting his own house, and it's his, yes, he must light in his own house, but when he's dorming away, it's not considered, it's still considered Samukh al Shulchan Aviv, he's still being supported by his parents, and therefore fulfills his obligation with their Ner Hanukah. So on Friday night, candles obviously have to be lit before sunset. It's customary to light the Ner Hanukah prior to Ner Shabbat. So we're lighting approximately 20 minutes before sunset. So therefore, since we're lighting so early, the candles still have to last the same amount of time that they would normally last on a weeknight, meaning that if you're lighting 20 minutes after sunset, they have to last 30 minutes from there. So that's 50 minutes after sunset. So if you're lighting 20 minutes before sunset, so the candles have to last at least an hour and 10 minutes. So if you're lighting with oil, you put that much oil so that they're going to last at least an hour and 10 minutes. However, if you're lighting with candles, you have to get special candles, meaning candles that are long enough that will last at least an hour and 10 minutes. If you use the ordinary Hanukkah candles that everyone uses on the weeknight, right, they last 30, 40 minutes. It's not enough, so you can't use those on Friday night. Now let's say you lit Ner Hanukah on Friday night, and the candles went out, right? So if it's after sunset, obviously you cannot relight them, but according to the law, you're not obligated to light them even if you find it before sunset, meaning we say, Hadlaka osa mitzvah. Once you lit, lighting constitutes the mitzvah. So once you lit, you fulfilled your obligation. Now if it went out, kapta in zakukla. If it went out, you're not obligated to relight it. Now if it's before sunset on Friday evening and you find it, so it's preferable, it's proper to relight it. But again, you're not obligated to relight it. Likewise, on a weeknight, right? Like we said, kapta in zakukla. If you lit Ner Hanukah and it went out, even after a few minutes, even after 2 or 3 minutes it went out, he's not obligated to relight it. But like we said, if it's before sunset on Friday, it's proper to relight it. It's also considered proper to relight Ner Hanukah during the week if it went out within the first 30 minutes. If it went out after 30 minutes, there's no obligation whatsoever. He's not obligated in any way to relight it. Meaning, after 30 minutes, that after the candles were lasted for 30 minutes, if he wants, he could extinguish them, or he can use them for personal use during the first 30 minutes from when you light Ner Hanukah. Asur lishtamish behem. You can't use the light of Ner Hanukah. But once it already burned for 30 minutes, you could put it out, you could use it for personal use, and therefore, if it went out at that point, there is no reason whatsoever that you would have to relight it at that point. So now, on Saturday night, according to Maran in the Bet Knesset, you're supposed to light Ner Hanukah first, and then make Havdalah. And that was a custom in Halab as well, right? Kedad Maran. There are other poskim, other opinions that say no. In the Bet Knesset, you make Havdalah first, and then you light Ner Hanukah. And in fact, as far as I know, that's the Egyptian custom. In Ahava B'Ahava, they make Havdalah first on Saturday night, and then they light Ner Hanukah. In our Bate Knesset, in the Syrian shuls, they follow Maran, and therefore first Ner Hanukah, and then Havdalah. But at home, all agree that first you make Havdalah, and then you light Ner Hanukah. So now, what about the Mizmor that we recite for Hanukkah? When was it recited in the Bet Knesset for Shahrit in Halab? So the custom of Halab, as we see documented in Derech Eretz, we also see from the recent arrivals from Halab in our community, that they recite the Mizmor, Shir Hanukkah Tabayit David, upon taking the Sefer Torah out of the Aron, meaning with the Hotza'at Sefer Torah, prior to the Torah reading every day on Hanukkah. Now on Hanukkah, whenever we recite the Amidah or Birkat HaMazon, we add in Al Hanissim. If you forgot Al Hanissim, whether it was Birkat HaMazon or the Amidah on Hanukkah, you don't repeat. Right? If you already went into the next Berakhah, you began the next Berakhah in Birkat HaMazon, or the next Berakhah, you finished Hatov Shum Chalachah Na'ele Odod, so you don't go back and correct yourself. It's considered that you fulfilled your obligation. Interestingly, in Halab, they would say Bemeh Matadya ben Yohanan Kohen Gadol Hashmonai. Right? There's some books that put the Nikud Hashmonai, others Hashmonai. Right? Our custom is to say Hashmonai. Now the reason why we don't repeat Birkat Hamazon if we didn't say Al Hanissim is because there's no obligation to eat bread in honor of Hanukkah. On Hanukkah you're not allowed to fast. You have to eat something, but you could eat fruits, you could eat vegetables. As long as you didn't fast, as long as you ate something and you weren't fasting, you fulfilled your obligation for Hanukkah, right? And Maran writes that the Se'udot, if you have a festive meal in honor of Hanukkah, it's not a Se'udat mitzvah. Why? Maran writes, Shelo kiva'um lemishteh v'simcha, that the rabbis didn't institute the days of Hanukkah for feasting and rejoicing. And Maran is basing himself on the statement in the Gemara that states that the days of Hanukkah, that the rabbis kiva'um ve'asaum yamim tobim behalel ve'hoda'ah, meaning that the rabbis established these days as festive days, but for praise and for gratitude. That's why we recite the entire Hallel, all 8 days of Hanukkah, with a berakhot. There are days of Hallel, Hoda'ah, when we say Al Hanissim in the Amidan, in Birkat Hamazon. So Maran understands that it's only for Hallel ve'hoda'ah, for praise and gratitude. It's not for Mishteh v'simcha. Therefore, he says if you have a meal in honor of Hanukkah, it's not a Se'udat mitzvah. However, there are other authorities that understood the use of the word Yamim Tobim in the Gemara as including festive meals as well. And therefore, Harambam's language regarding the days of Hanukkah is Yemeh Simcha veHalel. So whereas Maran says they weren't established as days of Simcha, Harambam specifically says they were established as days of Simcha. And since Harambam's use of the word Simcha is based on the Gemara's use of the word Yamim Tobim, so Simcha, when it's associated with the Yamim Tobim, is associated with a festive meal. And Simcha ela babasar, and Simcha ela bayayin. And therefore, there are later authorities who explain that according to Harambam, if you have a festive meal in honor of Hanukkah, it is a Se'udat mitzvah, not like the opinion of Maran. And not only that, Harambam is not the only authority or the first authority to describe Hanukkah as days of Simcha. We find the description of Hanukkah as the days of Simcha in the Teshuvot of the Geonim. Right, the Geonim lived between the 7th and 10th centuries. We see it in the writings of Rabbi Yitzhak ibn Giyat, an 11th century authority from Spain. He lived in Lucena. We find it in the writings of Ramban and the Ritba. Now there are other Rishonim who describe Hanukkah not only of days of Simcha, but actually as days of Mishteh v'Simcha. We see these Rishonim include the Ba'alei HaTosafot, the Mordechai, Rabbeinu Yonah, and the Kolbo. And interestingly, in the Megillat Antiochus, which is dated as early as the 2nd century, also calls the days of Hanukkah days of Mishteh v'Simcha. So, although festive meals are not required for Hanukkah, they are appropriate. Chacham Yosef writes that if you make a meal in honor of Hanukkah and you sing Tishbachot Hashem, you sing praises to God, you sing Pizmonim, songs of praise, that these meals become a Se'udat mitzvah. All the more so if you have Divrei Torah in honor of at the Se'udot. So now, there are some communities that had the custom to serve cheese and dairy foods on Hanukkah. Maran mentions this custom, but this was not the custom in Halab. In Halab, they had the custom to prepare 2 pastries in honor of Hanukkah. One is known as zingel, and that's basically a fried dough dipped in a sugary syrup. And the other one is called atayef. Atayef, it's like also a thin dough, and they fill it with nuts and, no, not with jelly. They fill it with nuts and with sugar and cinnamon, and that's also fried and also dipped in a sugary syrup. So now these pastries weren't only served only on Hanukkah. Anytime you had a festive occasion during the year, they would make these pastries along with other pastries. In fact, atayef was also commonly served in honor of Tu B'Shvat, but these 2 pastries were also served in honor of Hanukkah. So, in addition, there's no Middle Eastern communities that have the custom of playing with a dreidel. And the reason is that the dreidel basically originates in Europe, right, as a game in Europe that was played by the non-Jews in Europe. We find it as early as the 16th century in England and Ireland. Eventually it made its way to Germany. And the Jews, it was like an indoor game, so it was usually played during the winter months, around the time that Hanukkah falls. And the Jews also adapted it and made it like a Jewish version of dreidel. But there's no mention of dreidel in any early Jewish sources, no midrash, none of the Rishonim, none of the early Aharonim. In fact, the earliest Jewish source you might have something in the late 18th century where certain Ashkenazi authorities are mentioning the dreidel. Now there's a common belief that dreidel was played in the time of the Greeks, the camouflage Torah study from the Greeks, but the earliest record of such a notion is really 1890. So there's no rabbinic tradition to such an idea. And it was only, so therefore you won't find it amongst any of the Middle Eastern communities, since it really originated as a European game, and then it was adopted by the Jews and adapted for Hanukkah. Furthermore, the song Ma'oz Sur, which is very common today in our community, was not sung in Halab. Our Pizmon book has two Halabi Pizmonim in honor of Hanukkah. One of them is known as Hechalo, Hechalo. The other one is Odechai Tovot Kamalta. Odechai Tovot Kamalta, we see that Hakam Moshe Ashar, who was the Hazan of the community between 1915 until he passed away in 1940, he used Odechai in honor of Hanukkah. We don't find that we have his notes of the various tunes that he used during the last 4 years of his life. We don't see him around the time of Hanukkah ever using the tune Ma'oz Sur. So this is something that was we picked up here in New York after making contact with Ashkenazim. It wasn't used historically. So I'm just going to conclude with one last custom for Hanukkah, and that's that in Halab on Friday night of Hanukkah they did not recite Bemeh Madleekleen. And we find this custom mentioned in Maran Shulchan Aruch. Maran writes, Yesh she'en omrim oto b'Shabbat shel Hanukkah. In Hilchot Shabbat, when Maran is discussing Bemeh Madleekleen, he said there are some communities that don't recite it on Friday night of Hanukkah. And the reason for this custom, the poskim explained, is that the Bemeh Madleekleen, it's Mishnayot, that are talking about those oils which are not valid for use for Shabbat candles. Now, oils that may not be used for Shabbat candles may be used for Hanukkah candles, as we said earlier. So, and even on Friday night, meaning if I'm lighting Shabbat candles on Friday night, I have to use oil that's fit for Shabbat candles. But if I'm lighting Hanukkah candles, even on Friday evening, I may use those oils which I can't use for Shabbat candles. So since it's Hanukkah, and they don't want to focus on the oils that you can't use for Shabbat candles when I'm using them for Hanukkah candles, so it became customary not to recite Bemeh Madleekleen. So we wish you all a happy and healthy Hanukkah.